Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And welcome to your overview of the Goon, bunch of Old Crap Omnibus Volume 1 from Dark Horse Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Dark Horse for sending us a copy of this omnibus. Now, this book has been printed before in a series of trade paperbacks and a series of a library edition, which we'll compare it to here in a little bit. As a matter of fact, Bunch of Old Crap Omnibus has been printed before by Albatross Press, and now it is being printed by Dark Horse. Eric Powell decided to bring it back to Dark Horse Comics. So yes, as I mentioned, it has been printed in a series of library editions. There are these big books. These actually have the dust jacket, but yes, it is taller, longer. However, it is the exact same material that you have here collected in this book right here. We'll do a little comparison with the artwork here in a second, but let's go back to this. You have Eric Powell's The Goon, Bunch of Old Crap, and Omnibus, Volume 1. And then you have the Albatross funny books right there, The Goon, Bunch of Old Crap, and Omnibus Volume 1 by Eric Powell, the Dark Horse logo. And in the back, 5-time Eisner Award winner, and then some love for The Goon, including one of my favorite directors of all time, Frank Darabont, Jeff Smith, Entertainment Weekly, and Tom Waits from the AV Club. Retail price, $34.99, and there's the man himself. Before I go any further, this is a trade paperback edition. When Dark Horse usually does these omnibus editions, they are trade paperbacks with glued binding. So that's why I love doing overviews, because sometimes people see the word omnibus and immediately think oversized hardcover. Not every time. So we are going to crack the book open. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the Goon is. I know I've done an overview of the Goon before, but it's been years, and it's one of my favorite Dark Horse books that they've put out. So I'm glad that it's back there and with some new books being printed. So let's go ahead and open this together and check out this artwork and story. All right, let's go ahead and get this opened. And here we go. The Goon, Bunch of Old Crap, and Omnibus Volume 1, written and illustrated by Eric Powell. However, he's not alone. There's other people that help him, like Dave Stewart, Robin Powell, and then you have, I know for a fact, one of these stories in here does contain Hellboy sequences by Mike Mignola. Yes, Heaps of Ruination. So it is broken down into 4 different stories, or rather 4 different collections, because these were originally printed in single issues, and then of course trade paperback. So you have the rough stuff, which I think at one point it was called The Goon Volume 0, Nothing But Misery, My Murderous Childhood and Other Grievous Yarns, and Heaps of Ruination, and your sketchbook right here. And then Heaps of Ruination sketchbook. So the rough stuff. You have a forward here. There's a lot of forwards, by the way, through here, just from the different times Eric Powell shopped the Goon around. But this tells you a little bit about how he's uncomfortable seeing some of his stuff, but he feels like, you know, he's come to terms with seeing some of his old art. And you got to pay the bills. So you have this 2-pager here introducing us to both of these characters of the Goon and Frank. By the way, this book has 496 pages. It is the exact same page count as the library edition that I showed earlier. All right, so I will say the same thing that I tell everybody. Don't judge the Goon too hard from the first few stories, because it is a little rough around the edges. You've got the character of the Goon and his companion Frankie. It's the guy that says the knife to the eye guy. They kind of set the scene for what is going to follow. And the first story arc is the Goon. He's being attacked by a werewolf, and there's like this guy, this giant dude that's eating rats, and a zombie that happens to be a chimp. And all of them are getting into this giant fight. And The Goon and Frankie just seem to be like, oh, this is kind of, this is what we do. This is our world, no matter how gratuitous and crazy the fights get. And eventually there will be colors, just that this first comic was done in this style right here. And again, the colors by Dave Stewart during this time. And as the chapters go on, the more you'll start seeing how this world is shaping, who the Goon is. Because this one here tells a little bit, I think this is the third chapter, it's the final chapter in this book. This right here tells you the origin, rather two different takes on the origin of the Goon. And this one's really cool because I love the fact that it's all in pencil. And so it looks a little bit different than the rest of the book. And then you get the next story right here, which again, different in forwards, Nothing But Mystery. And by the time you get to Nothing But Mystery, you start actually understanding who these characters are. And a lot more about the Goon and who he works for and who the character of the zombie priest is and who could be behind this. But one of my favorite things about the Goon is that Powell has this beautiful mix. And if you're not familiar with Eric Powell, I know I've talked about Do You Hear What Eddie Gain Done, that book, a lot. And I've talked about the Goon in like my favorite Dark Horse books. But he's got this beautiful art style that's like a mix of like Will Eisner and like Wally Wood and Jack Kirby with a little bit of like that Mignola flair for the contrast that just makes these monsters just come to life. And maybe it's the monsters like that, that makes me think of Kirby, and just the composition that makes me think of like Will Eisner. I don't know, but that's the way I've always seen it. I love his pencils. Like his pencils are just so good. So each one, the Christmas story is actually a pretty awesome story that kind of shows you exactly how the Goon would handle somebody like Santa Claus. So it's these two guys that are friends, that became friends through happenstance, that could be working for this mobster named Labrazio, who also could be dead, and it could be the Goon running things. So there's a lot of like mysterious stuff happening at the beginning, and then you get to find out how Frankie and the Goon met, and you'll find out about the hat that he wears and how he got that scar. But that doesn't happen until later. I think that's in the Chinatown story, if I'm not mistaken. But you get Lost Tales in here. This is him beating up the bullies that are picking on Frankie and how they became really good friends. And sometimes, you feel like, is this really the true origin of this story, or is it something else? The Heaps of Ruination story features, I think it's in the third act, it's this weird crossover with Hellboy. And yes, Mike Mignola draws the Hellboy parts and also does the scripts for the Big Red himself. Like, just look at this. This just opens up masterfully here with these pages that you immediately know it's Mike Mignola. And I forgot to mention that one of the best parts of Heaps of Ruination is this. You have a forward by none other than Frank Darabont. And comparing the Goon to other masterpieces of graphic novel literature. You have like him comparing it to Hellboy, him comparing it to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but a lot of it comparing it to The Spirit. I thought that was really cool that that's the way that he feels about this. Considering like this first story is the Goon and Frankie and his friends are trying to rescue this buzzard from the zombie priest. That's pretty much it, right? Like they're trying to stop him from doing something with this with this buzzard. And then we also get the return of the psychic seal through here. So it's those kind of characters that are all over this book. And I know it's really supernatural and it may seem weird, but there's just something down to earth about the Goon that makes it so likable. And a lot of it has to do with the relationship between the Goon and Frankie. I think the chemistry between both of them works great. And the best part about the Goon is that, do you need to read the old stuff? Like if you're bored with this to get into the new stuff? No, not at all. You can jump into any of these 4 different stories in here and they're meant for new readers. I think that's great. I love that about this, especially this collection. By the time you get to other collections, I think you would have to know a little bit about the history of the characters for it to kind of make sense. And there are some cameos galore, not just Hellboy, that show up even in this first volume. And then all the way in the back, you do get the sketches. So the rough stuff sketches, the preliminary drawings for what the Goon was going to look like, what Frankie was going to look like. And one of the other things I get asked about when talking about the Goon is like the rating of the book. Like, wait, can a teenager read it? Honestly, I don't think there's anything. Well, okay, the sodomy. Let me see what they suggest. I want to say it's like teen plus. At least this first volume, I don't see really anything too rough about it. Other than some violence, I think teen plus would be good. I know as a teen, I would have loved to have read something like this. This is crazy. And it's all thanks to my buddy Chris later. Let's go look at the extras because we also have some covers here. My buddy Chris is the one that got me into this series. Loves the Goon so much, he's got a tattoo of the character. And these are different covers, Heaps of Ruination sketchbook, and then other Albatross titles. So Albatross is, of course, the imprint that Eric Powell works under, but he's getting his stuff printed at Dark Horse, which is great because it makes it more available for everybody. And by the way, there's a couple times you're going to see the origin of the Goon through here in case you skip the first story. But I don't really recommend skipping the first story. It's got a lot of fun elements in it. Plus, the artwork, to me, as harsh as he is about his art, I think it's great. Now, one of the things I want to do, so I said they had the same page number, but is everything else the same? I mean, outside of the size of the book. And we saw that that's the same. Color is a little bit different here. And speaking of color, there was something I immediately noticed, and that is a little bit of the colors in the rough stuff, which I find interesting because it was colored by Dave Stewart. So even the table of contents looks the same outside of the font. Rough stuff, this is, of course, colored by Dave Stewart. You have the forward there, same forward here, just font looking just a little bit different. And of course, the art is bigger. The shades of green look different over here, and colors look different, or same there, and they look the same there. All right, so speaking of colors, this is now chapter 1. This is prologue 1, or just prologue. But if you notice right away, yes, over here in the Omnibus Edition, we have this black and white version, whereas over here in the Library Edition, you have the color here. Since the pages are the same, let's just go ahead and turn to page number 20. You have it in color. You have this color, and this is the new edition, the Omnibus Edition. And of course, all supervised by Eric Powell. He got to make the decision that maybe perhaps, he wanted to make this into black and white originally, so he wasn't satisfied with the color version. That he thought, okay, well, let's just make it in black and white, make it a true prologue, if you will. Maybe that's the reason, but yes, something you will notice is that the page count, or the page numbers, are the same. Then you have a frame around the artwork. But, that's the first story. Let's get to later stories, like over here. Okay, there we go. Now we got some colors. And again, page numbers down at the bottom being identical. Now, the big difference besides the size is also the paper stock. The paper stock they're using for the Library Edition is this really thick, glossy paper. For the Omnibus Edition, it's glossy, but it's thin. And of course, the Library Edition has sewn binding. This has glued binding and in soft cover. But I did want to point out that there was a difference, and then let's go all the way in the back here, that even the extras are exactly the same. So, covers and sketchbook. And, sorry, that part of the sketchbook there got away. And there we go. And then, of course, that piece and the extra Albatross books. And over here is a little bit different. It's the Goon Eric Powell stuff. And, of course, Dust Jacket. But that is it. That is the Goon. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $200 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus edition. Let me know in the comments down below if you've never read the Goon and this is your first time checking it out. If you're hoping one day that Dark Horse will reprint the library editions and hopefully make them more complete and continue with them. And if you love the Goon and you had no idea it was coming back to print in this omnibus format. Any questions, leave those down below. Smash that like button on the way out. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.